Subscribe to the MTL World at Malworld 1 YouTube channel. Novel, The Primordial Law. Volume 7, The Struggle for Immortal Realm. Chapter 156, 831, Escorting the Holy Commander back to the camp. 156th of Volume 7. Translator, Shadow Knight AK. Editor, Shadow Knight AK. The Emperor's bestowed marriage decree was a matter of national importance. Since the previous night, the defensive formations along 9 Bestowments Avenue, the grand thoroughfare stretching from the No. 1 Scholar's Manor to the Heavenly Sword Altar, had been fully activated. Purified water was sprinkled across the streets, and spiritual sand in gold and crimson hues were spread over the road. Every 30 meters along the avenue, a golden armored soldier stood at attention, halberd in hand, snow accumulating on their heads and shoulders. As dawn broke, temple bells chimed and Luan birds sang their melodious voice. Bu Lianxi led a magnificent wedding procession toward the No. 1 Scholar's Manor. He wore a crimson robe embroidered with sword feather patterns, a diagonally draped sash of heaven and earth unity across his chest, and walked upon a 7-colored cloud bridge, his lips perpetually curved into a ceremonial smile. The elder members of the Sword Dao Imperial Court's royal clan anticipated that today would not be peaceful. Because a large number of experts has been arranged among the wedding procession and honor guards accompanying Bu Lianxi. 36 Imperial Guards, clad in gleaming gold-plated armor and red Qilin cloaks, led the procession, each wielding a dragon phoenix imperial sword. The retinue included a full complement of musicians, golden boys and jade maidens, and auspicious birds such as cranes and Luan birds. Bringing up the rear were 9 towering aberrant humanoid giants, their cultivation profound. They carried the 9-tone bell, both a ceremonial instrument and a formidable weapons of war. The 3 talents of the Bai clan, Bai Xingyu, Bai Benlei, and Bai Lu, 9th-generation immortal ascendants of the Sword Dao Imperial Court, were responsible for guarding No. 1 Scholar's Manor. To the outside world, the 3 talents of the Bai clan seemed to have forged a deep friendship with Tang Wanzhou, the new first-rank scholar, during the Immortal Ascension competition. Upon seeing the wedding procession arrive, the 3 talents of the Bai clan immediately rushed out of the manor gates to greet them. Only then did Tang Wanzhou finally have the opportunity to rush into the depths of the manor courtyard and meet Tang Wanzhou alone. Tang Wanzhou sat motionless in the sedan chair, adorned in phoenix crown and ceremonial robes, her hands were clasped together on her lap. Maids had meticulously applied her makeup, leaving her red lips glistening and her delicate eyebrows softly arched. Her dark hair was styled into an elegant updo, radiating dignified grace and peerless charm, more feminine than ever before. Yet she remained utterly still, like a statue. Sister. Sister. What's wrong? What have they done to you? Tang Wanzhou cried out, shaking her shoulder. But there was no response. The hatred in Tang Wanzhou's heart burned so fiercely that she wanted to devour someone alive. Hearing the phoenix bell chime outside the manor, Tang Wanzhou swiftly wiped away her tears, gritted her teeth, and forced herself to calm down. Sister, don't worry. I won't let you down. Today, our blood will stain this wedding ceremony, exposing the true face of the Sword Dao Imperial Court to the world. When the time comes, faced with the world's condemnation and the tragic loss of a mother and child, the Sword Emperor will have no choice but to yield to Father. Then, Father's 3 lifetimes curse will be lifted. The strong fight to the death, the weak resist with their lives, and none will seek survival through dishonor. Tang Wanzhou had long planned to commit suicide in protest on her wedding day. Another part of her plan was to have Tang Wanzhou feign friendship with the 3 talents of the Bai clan, Bu Lianxi, and others. If her initial plan failed, Tang Wanzhou would draw her sword. Given the overwhelming disparity in strength, she could think of no better strategy than to use her death to gain leverage. Reasoning would be futile. Only death would convince the world. Only death would free those behind her from subjugation. How much damage could she inflict on her enemies? That would depend on fate. Soon, the wedding procession departed from the No. 1 Scholar's Manor, proceeding along 9 Bestowments Avenue and the 100 Zhongwai Qi River toward the wedding venue. The air throbbed with the clamor of gongs and drums, punctuated by the resonant tolling of bells. Tang Wanzhou sat within a phoenix carriage drawn by 9 Qilin-blooded strange beasts, following behind Bu Lianxi's mount. Everyone's faces were filled with smiles. The streets and riverbanks were thronged with crowds, a sea of people stretching as far as the eye could see. Only Tang Wanzhou, the carriage driver, wore a smile that masked her inner sorrow. The Sword Dao Imperial Court had broken its word, forcing her father and sister to compromise for the sake of the East Sea Immortal Dao Dragon Bane. They were determined to forcefully annex the Snow Sword Tang Court, but Tang Wanzhou would not fear death. Soon, she noticed something strange. 2 imposing figures appeared on either side of the carriage, their auras deep and profound. Both rode monarch marquis grade strange beasts. They were Ku Wanchen, the 2nd-ranked immortal ascension being of the Sword Dao Imperial Court's 8th-generation immortal cultivators, and Bai Yi, the Tanhua 3rd-ranked scholar. Tang Wanzhou turned to look behind her. Clatter, clatter. More 8th-generation immortal cultivators of the Sword Dao Imperial Court emerged from the side streets, each mounted on a magnificent strange beast, clad in armor, and carrying a spiritual artifact battle sword on their backs. Their battle intent burned fiercely, their gazes sharp as lightning, like heavenly soldiers and generals transforming into a vast, surging tide of great immortal. What is this? Does Bu Lianxi truly command such influence among the 8th-generation immortal cultivators of the Sword Dao Imperial Court? Tang Wancho wondered, sensing that these great immortal experts were not here for a wedding. Their expressions, as if facing a formidable enemy, suggested they were about to charge into battle. This is too strange. A woo. Roar. One after another, dragon roars echoed from the street ahead. 5 dragon souls, their claws bared and fangs bared, pulled the jade carriage forward, vying for dominance. They blocked the wedding procession in an open area at a crossroads. Who dares obstruct our path? Such insolence. The 36 imperial guards glared with murderous intent. Though their swords remained sheathed, 36 streams of sword intent surged like a tidal wave toward the 5-dragon jade carriage. Whoosh! Li Wei stood tall on the carriage platform, radiating unwavering confidence and majesty. The spirit realm between his eyebrows opened. The Fusong divine tree spiritual light radiant shadow erupted skyward, towering 100 jong high. Its branches spread wide, enveloping a vast swath of the city domain and blocking the onrushing sword intent of the 36 imperial guards. The myriad inscriptions artifact, the Bodhi golden bell, flew from Li Wei's ancestral field. Transforming into a house-sized golden bell, it emitted boundless golden light as it spun rapidly, completely dispersing the tidal wave of sword intent. Boom! The Bodhi golden bell crashed heavily onto the street between the two processions. Stone slabs shattered with sharp cracks as the bell, its mouth facing downward, began to move swiftly toward the wedding procession. Thump! Bu Lianxi's eyes turned icy as his figure blurred, vanishing from his mount's back. He teleported onto the top of the bell, his toes lightly tapping the surface. Yet each step carried the weight of 10,000 jun, causing the myriad inscriptions artifact to sink abruptly downward. The streets trembled violently. Defensive formation glyphs and beams of light rapidly rose from all directions. Li Wei didn't rush to retract the Bodhi golden bell. Instead, he let out a hearty laugh. Does the Sword Dao Imperial Court not welcome me? Why are they attacking with 36 Dao sword intents without provocation? Perhaps they believe this path is theirs alone, and we have no right to tread it, Lu Yi remarked. Behind them, Tang Wancho, who was driving the carriage, stared in disbelief, her mind reeling. Wasn't this man supposed to have died 2 years ago at the hands of the Heavenly Demon Empress? That incident had caused a massive uproar. Tang Wancho knew perfectly well why Li Wei had arrived in her sister's 5-dragon jade carriage. Her heart surged with elation, never imagining such a twist of fate. She immediately turned to look at her sister inside the palanquin. Alas, the gauze curtain obscured her face, making it impossible to see Tang Wanzhou's expression. Tang Wanzhou's fervent gaze caught the attention of Bai Yi, who stood nearby. Bai Yi's lips curled into a cold smile as he glanced at the distant 5-dragon jade carriage. Li Wei, stop concealing your true intentions. He shouted. Today is Senior Brother Bu's momentous day, a marriage bestowed by the Emperor himself. If you dare disrupt this sacred occasion, not only will the 36 Imperial Guards capture you, but every martial mystic cultivator in the Sword Dao Imperial Court will brand you as an enemy of the nation. On the other side of the sedan chair, second-ranked Ku Wanchen spoke in a calm tone, the rules of the Immortal Ascension competition won't protect you. No human race cultivator would tolerate your blatant disrespect for the Emperor's sacred authority. An 8th-generation immortal cultivator from the Sword Dao Imperial Court deliberately burst into laughter. This Li bastard thinks he's some kind of romantic hero, sticking his nose into everyone's business and trying to show off under the starry sky mirror. Li Wei, you came to the Sword Dao Imperial Court to stir up trouble, trying to steal Senior Brother Bu's fiancé. Does your own fiancé, Zuoqiu Hongting, know about this? Get lost now. We're giving face to the Grand Palace Master by not dealing with you, you shameless scoundrel, today. Otherwise, we'd have your dog head on a sword in an instant. I heard there was a brutal massacre near Huo City last night, and the clues point directly to Li Wei. Why bother with the rules of the Immortal Ascension competition for such a fiend? Just seize him and throw him in the dungeon. He must be behind the massacre. He's trying to use the same tactics he used against the Shi King's bandit army against the Sword Dao Imperial Court. How utterly foolish. The 8th-generation immortal cultivators of the Sword Dao Imperial Court had gathered in full force, brimming with confidence. Knowing their opponents had come to steal the bride, they saw no need for polite words. They had long prepared a series of irrefutable evidence traps, like a waiting pocket, just waiting for Li Wei to step inside. If Li Wei were a free practitioner like Fang Yuding, without the backing of the martial Dao Heavenly Emperor, they would have attacked him directly long ago, rather than resorting to verbal attacks. Li Wei ignored their verbal barrage, glancing up at the starry sky mirror above. Only after the immortal ascension beings had finished their tirade did he retrieve Lu Tianshan's military decree and hand it to Nangong Baikai. Nangong Baikai descended from the Five Dragons' jade carriage and stood opposite the bridal procession. In a clear, resonant voice, she proclaimed, "Emergency military decree from Deputy Sentinel Lord Lu Tianshan. Tang Wanzhou is hereby ordered to return to camp immediately. This order is urgent and must be obeyed without delay. Failure to comply will result in punishment under military law. Where is Tang Wanzhou? Step forward to receive this decree." Tang Wanzhou was about to rise when Bai Yi struck her in the back with a finger strike. Agony surged through her 5 Cs, and she collapsed back into her seat like a boneless puppet. Where is Tang Wanzhou? Step down from the carriage to receive this decree. Nangong Baikai called out again, her gaze fixed on the veiled figure within the 5-dragon jade carriage. Bu Lianxi's brow furrowed deeply as he said coldly, "The Sentinel Spirit Army consumes the resources and provisions of the Sword Dao Imperial Court, yet they oppose the Sword Emperor. Lu Tianshan fabricated military orders, causing grave consequences. I believe his tenure as Deputy Sentinel Lord has come to an end." Lu Yi roared, "Insolence! Who do you think you are, Bu Lianxi, to address the Deputy Sentinel Lord by name? For the sake of the human race, the Deputy Sentinel Lord has stationed his true form in the nether realm of the dead for years, safeguarding the peace of the 100 realms of the living. How dare you, a mere meat-eater, insult him?" "Well said." A hearty cheer erupted from the crowd. Chong Yujian, clad in the spiritual artifact robes of the Shaoyang Guard, stepped forward through the throng, his voice ringing with conviction. "You, Bu Lianxi, have no evidence yet recklessly accuse a Deputy Sentinel Lord who has steadfastly defended the nether realm for the human race and earned countless merits. None of us in the Sentinel Spirit Army can swallow this insult." Li Wei turned to look at him, utterly astonished. Chong Yujian was the last person he expected to see here. "Chong Yujian, you dare stand with Li Wei?" An immortal ascension being from the Sword Dao Imperial Court sneered. Chong Yujian remained unfazed. "The immortal ascension competition was not my choice, it concerns the fate of my clan. But as a Sentinel Spirit in the Sentinel Spirit Army, executing military orders and handling critical missions, including escorting the Holy Commander back to camp, that is a choice I can make. It concerns only my own future, and I am prepared to bear the consequences." A melodious female voice echoed from behind the 5-dragon jade carriage, "Stop evading the issue. The Deputy Sentinel Lord's presence at the Cave Void Camp has antagonized countless fallen spirit giants, jeopardizing the entire rainforest living realm. In the Willow Division alone, thousands of clansmen die annually from fallen spirit retaliation. How dare you Bu Lianxi, insult that venerable old man?" At her voice, Li Wei, Lu Yi, Nangong Baikai, and Chong Yujian turned in astonishment to see Qing Zijin approaching step by step. The Cave Void Camp could not have issued her a military decree. Her presence here could only mean she had obtained information from the Taiyan sect. This is too dangerous. The sound of a pipa erupted, like the frantic strumming of ambush from 10 sides. Yan Zhuo emerged from the crowd. Yan Zhuo of the Shaoyang Guard has come to escort the Holy Commander back to camp. Blank. End of chapter. Subscribe to the MTL World at Malworld 1 YouTube channel. Novel. The Primordial Law. Volume 7. The Struggle for Immortal Realm. Chapter 157, 832, The Meaning of the Immortal Ascension Competition. 157th of Volume 7. Translator. Shadow Knight AK. Editor. Shadow Knight AK. The north wind blows cold, the snow falls fair. With kindness in their hearts, they walk hand in hand. Today's heavy snow, heaven's favor withheld. Zhao Tang, dressed as a Confucian scholar, appeared atop a 5-story pavilion and leapt into the center of the street. Shaoyang Guard Zhao Tang has come to escort the Holy Commander back to camp. Li Wei never expected them all to show up. Overwhelmed with heroic fervor, he laughed, "Great snow brings great fortune. Have you not heard, a bountiful year follows auspicious snow? Only people bring bountiful years," Yao Qingshan replied, her white Shaoyang division robes billowing as she approached step by step. Li Wei didn't turn to look, merely shook his head with a wry smile. However, with Yu Yaozi's breakthrough to the Xuanhuan realm, the Zhuli clan no longer feared the Flying Phoenix or the Heavenly Demon Empress. Yao Qingshan's open appearance was no longer a significant matter. Today's snow is so heavy, truly heavy snow. Heavy snow is truly good, even if it's bad, we'll call it good. I can write poetry too. Who can't? Kai Haohan, the towering aberrant humanoid, strode forward. Shaoyang Guard Kai Haohan has come to escort the Holy Commander back to camp. Holy Division, led us to execute urgent military duties immediately. The entire Shaoyang Guard arrived, bowing in unison and shouting, "Holy Commander, dismount and return to camp with us." A long silence followed. Whether reflected in the starry sky mirror or among the assembled crowd, everyone sensed something was amiss. If Li Wei had come alone to cause trouble, the bride might have ignored him out of respect for royal clan etiquette. But in this situation, she should have at least offered a response. Nearby on the Qi River, Mo Duanfeng stood on a boat, shouting sarcastically, could the bride be under someone's control? Is she being forced into this marriage? On another boat, Pu Yanshou retorted, impossible. Absolutely impossible. This is a marriage decreed by the emperor himself, and Tang Wanzhou is the new first-rank scholar. Who would dare seal the bride? It's unthinkable. The old ancestor of the Bai clan is a man of great virtue and prestige, he would never resort to such tactics. Mo Kui countered, don't be so sure. Didn't the old ancestor of the Bai clan seize your Puyan clan's 9-page earthly tome? Even Patriarch Puyan, who fought for the Sword Dao imperial court, met an untimely and suspicious end. Within the bridal procession, chaos erupted. Most people were unaware of the underlying tensions, believing Bu Lianqi and Tang Wanzhou to be a match made in heaven. At most, they saw it as a strategic alliance between powerful families. Sealing the bride for marriage was an unprecedented scandal. Moreover, this was a heavenly marriage, and the bride was the new first-rank scholar who had just distinguished herself in the Immortal Ascension competition, earning glory for the Sword Dao imperial court. If confirmed, it would cause an uproar throughout the 100 realms and become the laughingstock of the world. After that, who would still flock to the Sword Dao imperial court? Li Wei said coldly, Nangong Baiakai, Qing Zijin, escort the holy commander back to camp. The military intelligence concerns the nether realm of the dead and is of utmost secrecy. No information must be leaked. Anyone who obstructs you will be executed without mercy. Nangong Baiakai and Qing Zijin, both at the 5th realm of cultivation, approached the palanquin drawn by 9 Qilin-blooded strange beasts. Wanzhou, ignore them. Leave everything to me, Bu Lianqi said gently to Tang Wanzhou, turning back to face him. He understood the consequences of the truth being exposed publicly. This absolutely could not be allowed to happen. So, he declared forcefully, no matter how grave the matter, it cannot outweigh the wedding ceremony decreed by the Sword Emperor himself. Whether this is a genuine disruption or a fabricated military decree, the eyes of the world are clear. Who doesn't know your true purpose here, Li Wei? Bai Yi rode his mount forward step by step, a thick barrier of spiritual qi coalescing before him to block Nangong Baiakai and Qing Zijin. To every sword cultivator in the Sword Dao imperial court, the Sword Emperor held a godlike status, and they would naturally defend his dignity. Not only the 8th generation immortal cultivators of the Sword Dao imperial court unleashed their overwhelming sword intent. The golden armored soldiers lining 9 Bestowments Avenue and the countless sword cultivators within the imperial city all drew their swords in unison. This was the disadvantage of fighting deep within enemy territory. If Li Wei and his group dared to forcibly approach Tang Wanzhou, they would inevitably provoke the wrath of the masses. In the ensuing battle, they would have no advantage and would be torn to pieces by a storm of swords. Not only would Li Wei die, but he would also doom the entire Shaoyang Guard. Yet, without getting close to Tang Wanzhou, they couldn't make Het speak and reveal the truth. Veteran Sentinel spirits emerged, lending their full support to the Sentinel Spirit Army. Meanwhile, transcendents from the Sword Dao Imperial Court's royal clan made a rare appearance, determined to uphold the dignity of the imperial family. The two sides faced off, swords drawn and bows strung, the tension palpable. Sword chi filled the sky, and murderous intent coalesced into a blood cloud. The situation was spiraling out of control, escalating to a perilous extreme. On the ships of the Qi River, cultivators like Mo Duanfeng, Pu Yanshou, Zhang Ning, Yaoyan, Shi, and Kang Li all paled, realizing the gravity of the situation. Even they believed Li Wei had no choice but to retreat. No one could take away a bride betrothed by the Sword Emperor within the Sword Dao Imperial Court. Except for one person. Ow! 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 3 earth-shattering lion roars reverberated across the imperial city. Heavy footsteps echoed through the air. The azure flame 3-headed lion, its 4 paws ablaze with crimson flames and its body radiating alternating azure and crimson light, strode down 9 Bestowments Avenue. Beside it walked a dragon-headed camel. Boom! Boom! The two beasts were colossal, resembling small mountains. Tang Shituo, his physique massive and imposing, sat atop the azure flame 3-headed lion. His chi surged outward, transforming into an icy, bone-chilling wind force that swept down the wide street toward the wedding procession, instantly shattering their formation. Tears streamed uncontrollably down Tang Wanzhou's face. She desperately wanted to speak, but no words would come. The old ancestor of the Bai clan, who oversaw most affairs beneath the martial Dao Heavenly Emperor in the Sword Dao Imperial Court, stood on the imperial city's walls, his eyes wide with disbelief. He couldn't comprehend how Tang Shituo, who had been frail and tormented by the 3 lifetimes curse just 2 months ago, could suddenly be restored to such vigor. After all, the last message from the Lingxiao realm, a mere half-month prior, had reported, Tang Shituo's condition has worsened. Even if Yu Yaozi had secretly aided him after her Kun Yuan realm breakthrough, complete recovery within 2 months seemed impossible. This is a grave situation. The old ancestor of the Bai clan pondered whether to resort to extreme measures. 3,000 miles away, Yu Yaozi stood at the center of the martial arena in the Huo City barracks. She held the Void Enlightenment sword horizontally in her right hand, like a zither, and plucked the blade with her left hand. Ripples of energy spread outward. The sword vibrated, shattering the surrounding space. Clang. The piercing clang of a sword reverberated across the vast, empty plains, reaching the Sword Dao Imperial City thousands of miles away. The old ancestor of the Bai clan's face turned ashen, realizing he had miscalculated once again. Yu Yaozi had infiltrated the Huo City barracks long ago. Suppressing his myriad thoughts, he turned and strode toward the Imperial Palace. He had underestimated his opponent, misjudged Tang Shituo's condition, and never anticipated Yu Yaozi would dare to appear in person. The Sword Dao Imperial Court had already lost the first round. Whoosh! Whoosh! Tang Shituo flicked his right hand, sending two streams of martial mystic chi hurtling through the air to strike Tang Wanzhou and Tang Wanzhou. A white rune materialized on Tang Wanzhou's forehead, shattered, and gradually restored her mobility. She slowly rose, lifted the curtain, and gazed at Tang Shituo in the distance, her gaze then shifting to Li Wei. Despite her resolute nature, her eyes had long since grown moist, like spring pools. Father! Tang Wanzhou shouted, leaping from the carriage and sprinting 10 paces before stopping abruptly. She turned to look at Tang Wanzhou, who had just dismounted. Go on ahead, Tang Wanzhou said, removing her phoenix crown and tossing it carelessly to the ground. With the heavy headdress gone, her raven hair cascaded down like a waterfall. Tell the old ancestor of the Bai clan to return the two rare insects immediately. Otherwise, don't blame this junior for showing him no respect. Such blatant acts of theft and plunder easily remind people of Patriarch Puyan's death and how the 9 pages of the earthly tome ended up in the Bai clan's possession. Tang Wanzhou instructed the martial mystic cultivator beside her, shedding her red robes and tying back her ponytail as she strode toward Nangong Baikai and Qing Zijin, who were standing nearby. Nangong Baikai fastened the Shaoyang Division's spiritual artifact robe and bracelet onto Tang Wanzhou's wrist. Old man. Tang Wanzhou approached the azure flame 3-headed lion and gazed up at the recovered Tang Shituo, her heart swelling with relief and joy. Tears welled in her eyes as she smiled through gritted teeth. How do we fight? I'll leave this place to you. We came to fight, but also to prevent war. The road from the Sword Dao Imperial City to Huo City is treacherous, fraught with unfathomable dangers. Tang Shituo glanced at Li Wei, offering this warning before turning his gaze toward the Imperial Palace. He leapt down from the azure flame 3-headed lion's back and bowed deeply. Disciple Tang Shituo has come to pay respects to the Sword Emperor. His voice boomed, its resonant waves rippling outward in concentric circles. Tang Shituo led the way, with the two beasts following behind, resolutely heading toward the Imperial Palace. Their solitary figures were quickly swallowed by the wind and snow. Bound to the backs of the azure flame 3-headed lion and the dragon-headed camel were the cowardly ghost and the wronged ghost from the 7 vengeful ones and 5 ghost kings. One wailed in despair, while the other cried out for justice. Yu Yaozi had already captured the 7 vengeful ones and 5 ghost kings. The 5 ghosts clearly knew the truth about the 3 lifetimes curse afflicting Tang Shituo. This was why Tang Shituo had brought 2 of them into the city and sent them to the palace as bargaining chips for his negotiations with the Sword Emperor. The remaining 3 ghosts were naturally in Yu Yaozi's custody. Li Wei understood perfectly that they couldn't afford to sever ties with the Sword Emperor. They had to exhaust every means to force him to back down. Otherwise, none of them would ever leave the Sword Dao Imperial City alive. Given the current situation, the Sword Emperor had ample excuses to deflect blame and find scapegoats, preventing him from flying into a rage and resorting to lethal measures. The negotiations officially began. Yu Yaozi and the Sword Emperor faced each other across the void, with Tang Shituo acting as their envoy. The focus of the conflict shifted to the younger generation. Bu Lianxi, Huo Wanqin, Bai Yi, and other 8th-generation immortal cultivators became pawns in the Sword Emperor's and the old ancestor of the Bai clan's struggle for bargaining leverage. They had to reverse the disadvantage caused by the Sword Dao Imperial Court's initial defeat. Whoosh! Bu Lianxi drew his battle sword, sword chi coalescing into a river of light and shadow. With a voice hoarse with grief and fury, he roared, "Today, Bu Lianxi has been betrayed, bringing shame upon the royal clan and dishonoring the emperor. Everyone knows why Li Wei has come. This hatred for the theft of a wife can only be cleansed with blood. For the dignity of the emperor and the glory of the Sword Dao Imperial Court, who dares invoke the rules of the Immortal Ascension competition against me today?" Bu Lianxi's words were deliberately ambiguous, as if to convince the world that he and the Sword Emperor were the true victims, manipulated by Tang Shituo, Tang Wanzhou, Li Wei, and others. Li Wei understood perfectly that his opponent was exploiting the honor and disgrace of the Sword Emperor and the Sword Dao Imperial Court to incite the sword cultivators within the Imperial City. The true purpose was to force Li Wei into a duel. If Li Wei refused to fight and tried to forcibly take Tang Wanzhou out of the city, he would face tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, or even millions of martial mystic cultivators from the Sword Dao Imperial Court. Li Wei responded in a deep voice, Bu Lianxi, do you think I would flee today? The very purpose of the Immortal Ascension competition is to resolve conflicts among the human race's major powers, preventing direct clashes between Transcendents and Martial Dao Heavenly Emperors that would lead to the bloodshed of innocent soldiers and civilians. The Immortal Ascension competition is a battle fought to prevent war. I will uphold this meaning. On the final day of the Immortal Ascension competition, I will remind everyone of the purpose and original intent they have forgotten. Today, Li Wei, the 9th generation Eternal Ascension being, formally challenges Bu Lianxi, the first 8th generation Immortal Cultivator, to settle grudges, quell chaos, halt conflict, and bring peace to the world. The Shaoyang Guard roared in unison, settle grudges, quell chaos, halt conflict, and bring peace to the world. Every cultivator in the city was deeply moved. Blank. End of chapter. Subscribe to the MTL World at Malworld 1 YouTube channel. Novel. The Primordial Law. Volume 7. The Struggle for Immortal Realm. Chapter 158, 833, Facing Bu Lianxi. 158th of Volume 7. Translator, Shadow Knight AK. Editor, Shadow Knight AK. Even those unaware of the full story could sense something was amiss when Tang Shituo arrived and Tang Wanzhou was immobilized. Moreover, the earth-shattering sword hum that had echoed from 1,000 miles away earlier only deepened the suspicion. All signs pointed to an invisible clash between the human race's highest echelons, one that might soon erupt into open conflict. Li Wei said he would use a battle between Immortal Ascension beings to avert a direct confrontation between the Martial Dao Heavenly Emperor and the Transcendents. Could that be true? Many pondered deeply. One person voiced the unspoken truth, perhaps it's related to the interests surrounding the East Sea Immortal Dao Dragon vein. Li Wei turned to Tang Wanzhou and the Shaoyang Guard. This is an Immortal Ascension competition between Immortal Ascension beings. It has nothing to do with you. Take the military decree and return to camp immediately. There's no time to waste. He means we'd just get in the way against the 8th generation Immortal Cultivators, Kai Haohan translated. He wants us to scram. Tang Wanzhou had been isolated from the outside world for too long and was unaware of many developments. But she knew Li Wei had come for her in the Snow Sword Tang court. No matter the circumstances, she couldn't abandon him and leave alone. You're with the Shaoyang division, Tang Wanzhou said. My father has gone to the Imperial Palace. You're here in the Sword Dao Imperial City. How can I leave? Chang Yujian, possessing the most comprehensive information and exceptional insight, saw through the essence of the situation. Rescuing the Holy Commander and forcing the Sword Dao Imperial Court into the Immortal Ascension competition only won as the first round. It earned us the right to sit down and negotiate. The second round is whether you can hold out until the 5th quarter of midnight tonight, when the New Year's temple bell rings. That marks the end of the Immortal Ascension competition. If the 8th generation longevity cultivators can't defeat you by then, a resolution will be reached within the Imperial Palace. Once the Immortal Ascension competition has ended. How to leave the Sword Dao Imperial City? Isn't that the true third round? I doubt it will be so simple. All of us Shaoyang Guard members have powerful backers, not to mention our status as Sentinel Spirit Army soldiers. In the human race's life realm, who would dare openly slaughter us all? Therefore, after the 5th quarter of midnight, we'll stand with you. Only by leaving the city together will you be truly safe. Lu Yi understood perfectly why Li Wei had issued the invitations and organized the Imperial City Sword debate. He wanted to bind the true disciples of the ancient sects, the Imperial disciples, and the Transcendents who had come to the Sword Dao Imperial City with them to the war chariot leaving at midnight. We'll wait for you at the Sword Debate Arena in the South City Heavenly Pavilion. When the New Year's temple bell rings, we'll leave the city together. The 8th generation Immortal Cultivators possessed profound cultivation, but staying would only hinder them. Rash action would only worsen the situation. Except for Tang Wanzhou and Nangong Baikai, the others quickly withdrew southward. The golden armored soldiers and ceremonial band retreated as well, leaving the 9 bestowments avenue wide and empty, a vast expanse of white. Amidst the towering buildings lining the Qi River, all observing cultivators were enveloped in layers of formation-light veils. Only the most powerful dared to venture beyond these protective barriers, hovering in the air. Li Wei steeled his mind, purging all distractions as he peered through the swirling snow at Bu Lianxi and the dozens of 8th generation immortal cultivators mounted on their steeds. Not a single weakling among them, each was a formidable figure capable of standing alone. The scene was profoundly awe-inspiring. What extraordinary courage and presence. The spectators and martial mystic cultivators across the life realm and Lingxiao realm etched this moment deep into their memories. A 9th generation immortal ascendant facing an entire cohort of 8th generation immortal cultivators with such composure and unwavering resolve. Since this junior dares to challenge the entire 8th generation immortal cultivators, seeking to forge his legend by trampling the old guard, for the honor of our generation, I, Bai Yi, will test his worthiness first. Bai Yi, the Tanhua of the 8th generation immortal cultivators from the Sword Dao Imperial Court, trembled his ancestral field, sending ripples of spatial energy expanding outward in concentric circles. Whoosh. Whoosh. 7th rank 1000 inscriptions artifact battle swords shot forth from Bai Yi's ancestral field like 7 twisting bolts of lightning, forming a sword formation as they hurtled toward Li Wei. The artifact inscriptions within the 7 swords erupted in a dazzling display, numbering in the tens of thousands, surpassing even the might of a myriad inscriptions artifact. 7 swirling torrents of sword chi converged into a single, twisting vortex. Bai Yi wasn't underestimating Li Wei. Rather, he was testing his opponent's strength on behalf of Bu Lianxi, ensuring the latter wouldn't be caught off guard. Such formidable martial mystic chi fluctuations, solidified sword intent, and a flawlessly executed sword formation, Li Wei marveled inwardly. Bai Yi's combat prowess rivals even those 7th Immortal Realm elders who have cultivated for centuries. Li Wei stood motionless, activating his 10,000 inscriptions artifact martial robe, the 8 divisions profound robe. Artifact inscriptions surfaced across the robe's surface, projecting a protective barrier that intercepted the incoming swords. Boom. The 7 swords momentarily stalled before Li Wei stepped forward, unleashing a shockwave that sent them scattering backward in disarray. Amidst gasps of astonishment echoing along 9 Bestowments Avenue, Li Wei raised his gaze. 30 meters above the ground, Bai Yi had already unleashed the Bai clan's imperial technique, the Heavenly March Sword. Spiritual chi and immortal inscriptions coalesced into a colossal sword, enveloping his body as it plunged diagonally toward Li Wei, instantly shattering the sound barrier. The Heavenly March Sword harnessed the chaotic power of the heavens, striking with unparalleled speed and devastating force. Among the Sword Dao Emperor techniques of southern Yingzhou, it ranked within the top 10. Even more remarkable, Bai Yi's descending strike drew in the 7 swords Li Wei had previously sent flying. The 8 blades formed a sword formation, converging in a unified attack. Sword light radiated in all directions, and an icy chill permeated the air. This was Bai Yi's ultimate strike, the culmination of his lifelong cultivation and the full extent of his martial mystic prowess. It demonstrated the immense respect he held for Li Wei. Li Wei raised his palm, immortal haze radiance swirling like cloudglow to form the heaven-turning palm seal. The seal was ancient, mysterious, and profoundly heavy, as if it were a genuine immortal artifact from the cosmos. Through his Dao technique, he manifested a projection of this ancient seal upon his palm. With a single strike. Boom. 4 of the 8 swords shattered. Bai Yi's Heavenly March Sword imperial technique collapsed, and his body was sent hurtling backward, crashing heavily against the formation light veil near the Qi River with a dull thud. The crowd clearly saw blood trickling from Bai Yi's nose and mouth. He had been severely injured by a single palm strike. Every 8th generation immortal cultivator held their breath. This was an emperor's disciple, a figure whose cultivation had reached the peak of the 6th immortal realm. How could he fail to withstand even a single palm strike from Li Wei? As expected of an emperor's disciple, Li Wei said, his voice dripping with genuine respect. To survive my heaven-turning palm seal, unleashed with my full strength. Bai Yi, your name will resound throughout the world. Li Wei's foot struck the ground, transforming him into a bolt of lightning as he surged toward Bai Yi with blinding speed, intent on delivering the killing blow. Such a formidable opponent could not be allowed time to heal. Li Wei's words were no mere arrogance or mockery, he genuinely recognized Bai Yi's terrifying potential. The emperor's disciple lived up to his reputation, proving to be one of the greatest threats in today's competition. After all, Li Wei had cultivated the Golden Holy Bone Manual, granting him an exceptionally powerful physical body. Yet even a full-strength palm strike using his fundamental martial mystic techniques had been withstood by his opponent. Bai Yi pressed a finger to the ground, flipped his body, and swiftly regained his footing. Li Wei's words had nearly aggravated his injuries further. A storm of thunder and lightning crashed toward him, Li Wei's fingers piercing through the electric maelstrom. Bai Yi's pupils dilated, leaving him with no room to retreat. Talismans flew from his sleeves, but he had no time to activate them. He braced for his imminent demise. But Bu Lianxi moved even faster than Li Wei. No, it was a spatial jump, a blink-like teleportation that intercepted Li Wei. A horizontal slash of his sword unleashed a radiant arc of light, as brilliant as the moon. The space around the blade rippled and distorted like water. Forced to change his attack, Li Wei pointed downward, striking the sword's body. Bang! The force of his strike drove Bu Lianxi's sword plummeting toward the ground. Li Wei, shielded by the defensive power of his 8 divisions profound robe, blocked the crescent-shaped sword chi and was sent flying backward 8 zhong. Spatial Emperor Technique, 7th Immortal Realm, he declared. Bai Yi retreated swiftly to heal, preparing for his second strike. This was exactly what Yu Yanjun had warned him about. The 8th generation immortal cultivators could only engage you individually, but you would never know when the next one would strike. Bu Lianqi intercepted Li Wei again, his figure flickering through space as he pursued Bai Yi. Earthly terrain sword. The myriad inscriptions divine war sword in Bu Lianqi's hand instantly underwent primordial awakening. With a single slash, earth chi surged from the depths of the earth, coalescing into a colossal sword chi colossus. Beyond the earth chi, Li Wei sensed an extraordinary presence converging from all directions, gathering upon the sword chi colossus. This invisible yet palpable force defied comprehension. Abandoning his pursuit of Bai Yi, Li Wei ascended into the void, temporarily evading the sword chi colossus's overwhelming power. Bu Lianqi has actually broken through to the seventh immortal realm. The immortal shackles have been completely severed, freeing him from all restraints. His speed and spatial emperor technique will reach unprecedented heights. On a ship within the Qi River, Pu Yanshou asked, "What power is Bu Lianqi mobilizing? I can sense an extraordinary aura." Kong Chengren replied, "It's the sword intent, sword chi, and sword stance of the Sword Dao Imperial City, Bu Lianqi's home advantage. Having reached the seventh immortal realm, he can now draw upon this power." Mo Kui frowned deeply. Though also at the early stages of the seventh immortal realm, he knew he was no match for Bu Lianqi within the Sword Dao Imperial City. Within the Sword Dao Imperial City, senior brother Bu is invincible among those of his realm. An 8th generation immortal cultivator from the Sword Dao Imperial Court shouted. Bu Lianqi stood gracefully atop the sword chi colossus, his sword held aloft as he soared upward. "What realm are you at, Li Wei?" Cultivators across the land watched with bated breath. This was Li Wei's first time crossing two major martial mystic Dao realms to challenge an opponent of Bu Lianqi's caliber. Previously, even with psychic martial mystic fusion, he lacked the confidence to win. It was only through the drastic enhancement of his physical body cultivation and the refinement of his internal inscriptions that he had surpassed his former self, entering a new realm of power within his current realm. Li Wei keenly sensed that Bu Lianqi had only just broken through to the seventh immortal realm, his cultivation not yet solidified to an insurmountable level. "Today, I, at the peak of the fifth immortal realm, will challenge you, the invincible master of the seventh immortal realm." Li Wei made no attempt to conceal his cultivation realm. He unleashed 108 Thunder Annihilation formations, condensing them into the Nine Heavens Thunder Annihilation Sword, which he slashed down from midair, aiming to cleave through the Sword Chi Colossus. The Purple Heaven Thunder and Golden Cloud Thunder Seal erupted forth, swirling like the yin and yang of the Tai Chi diagram within the Thunder Annihilation formations, their combined force pressing downward. Bu Lianqi refused to believe Li Wei was merely at the peak of the fifth immortal realm. His eyes darkened as he channeled the earthly terrain sword's power, summoning the sword chi colossus to clash head-on with the Nine Heavens Thunder Annihilation Sword. Both the old ancestor of the Bai clan and the royal clan had prepared for this, ensuring Bu Lianqi wouldn't be outmatched in spiritual artifact battle weapons. Whoosh! Dense inscriptions materialized on Bu Lianqi's robes, coalescing into 7 chains as thick as bowls, encircling him to block the 2 myriad inscriptions artifact thunder and lightning seals. The peak of the fifth immortal realm. "This is nothing but mockery," Yu Wuzhen exclaimed. "Li Wei is truly extraordinary. At the peak of the sixth immortal realm, he's transcended an entire cultivation stage and is still holding his own against Bu Lianqi." Wu Hongling chuckled. "Martial uncle, have you forgotten Li Wei's secret technique of psychic martial mystic fusion? He hasn't even revealed his true mastery yet. Bu Lianqi is doomed to lose. That's the 6th layer of imperial technique. Blank. End of chapter. Subscribe to the MTL World at Malworld 1 YouTube channel. Novel. The Primordial Law. Volume 7. The Struggle for Immortal Realm. Chapter 159, 834, Formation Execution. 159th of Volume 7. Translator. Shadow Knight AK. Editor. Shadow Knight AK. Li Wei has actually mastered the 6th layer of the imperial technique at such a young age, Yu Yanjun observed, noticing the shift in the battle as the Nine Heavens thunder-severing sword reached a new level. The thunder and lightning crackling above the 9 bestowments avenue were transforming from purple to azure, coalescing into strands of azure nether lightning. Boom! A deafening thunderclap shattered Bu Lianqi's earthly terrain sword with a single strike, sending his body plummeting toward the ground. The 6th layer of the Nine Heavens Thunder Annihilation Sword contained sonic waves and concussive force derived from the Tao of Thunder. The defensive formations enveloping the city domain trembled violently. Powerful cultivators standing outside the formation light veil staggered or retreated. Seizing the advantage, Li Wei pressed his attack, relentlessly slamming down the Purple Heaven Thunder Seal and Golden Cloud Thunder Seal. He then summoned the Yellow Dragon Sword, gripped it firmly, and strode forward. To kill his opponent before the Transcendence could intervene, he had no choice but to engage in close combat. Li Wei glanced sideways, noticing Xuanhuan, the second-ranked cultivator of the Sword Dao Imperial Court's 8th generation, had advanced 10 Zhong on his mount, poised to strike at any moment. Simultaneously, within the formation light veil to the right of the Nine Bestowments Avenue, Long Lu, the second-ranked cultivator of the Demon Kingdom's 8th generation, advanced in lockstep with Li Wei, a malicious grin spreading across his face. Meanwhile, Mo Duanfeng and Sheng Shidao, the number 1 scholars of the Holy Dynasty, had landed near the battlefield. Do you think they might resort to a sneak attack? Mo Duanfeng asked. Sheng Shidao shook his head with a smile. They're both figures of some standing. For now, they probably won't. But their posturing means Li Wei can't fully commit to the fight and must remain vigilant. The rules of the Immortal Ascension competition dictate that 8th generation Immortal cultivators can only engage 9th generation Immortal Ascendants in one-on-one combat, Mo Duanfeng explained. This is a protective mechanism designed by the human race's high command to encourage younger generations to challenge their seniors. Exactly. Sheng Shidao agreed. As long as the two 8th generation Immortal cultivators don't simultaneously attack Li Wei, it remains a one-on-one fight, with a time gap between their strikes. Otherwise, why would Li Wei have invited us here? If they want to see the Golden Holy Bone Manual, they need to show some respect. Sheng Shidao walked toward Long Lu, adding, the fact that Li Wei has forced Long Lu and Xuanhuan to resort to such desperate measures only proves his formidable strength. Who could have imagined that even Bu Lianxi, a 7th Immortal Realm cultivator, would find himself on the defensive? Meanwhile, Mo Kui, Pu Yanshou, and others landed nearby, approaching Xuanhuan. Mo Kui shouted loudly, Xuanhuan, Bai Yi. Don't disgrace the 8th generation Immortal cultivators and become a laughingstock for the younger generation. Clang. Clang. The clash of swords echoed as Bu Lianxi was completely overwhelmed. Each sword clash sent Bu Lianxi staggering back several steps, his posture utterly disheveled. His sword-wielding hand throbbed with pain and numbness. The Golden Holy Bone Manual is real, he realized. With the physical body's enhancement, Li Wei's strength surpasses even mine, a 7th Immortal Realm martial mystic cultivator who has shed all shackles. I can't engage him in close combat. Bu Lianxi turned and fled, desperate to create distance between himself and Li Wei. In close quarters, he couldn't even execute a space jump. Li Wei gave him no time to cast the Spatial Emperor technique, forcing him to channel all his spiritual chi into his battle sword just to defend. Li Wei narrowed his eyes, having anticipated Bu Lianxi's retreat. He had been waiting for this moment, the opportunity to strike his exposed back. A cicada's cry echoed through the air. Li Wei activated the clear void cicada chasing step, sprouting cicada wings from his back as he pursued Bu Lianxi relentlessly. The evil camel bell materialized silently, swaying from his sleeve. The yellow dragon sword in his hand crackled with pent-up energy, poised to strike. Emperor Bai's sword soul. The Emperor Bai's jade pendant at the wind mansion point on the back of Bu Lianxi's neck erupted in radiant light. 1,000 sword clang rang out as the Emperor Bai's imperial shadow manifested, merging with Bu Lianxi's cultivated sword soul to block the evil camel bell's willpower attack. They were prepared after all. Li Wei thought with a hint of regret. This must be the sword soul cultivation method of the Sword Dao Imperial Court's royal clan. Those old men are truly cunning, they didn't underestimate me, even as a junior. The Royal Bai clan's sword soul cultivation method stood alone in southern Yingzhou. By fusing the 7 souls into sword intent, it specialized in severing opponents, soul spirits and consciousness. With the Emperor Bai's sword soul's assistance, Bu Lianxi was like a tiger with wings. It served not only to defend against the evil camel bell but also as his ultimate trump card against Li Wei. Boom. The nether mist and camel light shadows released by the evil camel bell collided with the Emperor Bai's sword soul. The mental and spiritual attack pierced through the defensive formation, injuring countless spectators. Their sea of consciousness shattered as if cleaved by a sword or shattered by the bell's resonance, causing hundreds of martial mystic cultivators to collapse. This was with the defensive formation already blocking most of the attack. Without the formation's protection, the dozens of 8th generation immortal cultivators from the Sword Dao Imperial Court felt their heads splitting and immediately unleashed their battle technique intent to resist. Seizing the opportunity, Bu Lianxi created distance from Li Wei and soared into the sky. Heaven and earth unity. He raised his sword overhead, pointing it toward the heavens, while his other hand formed a sword gesture, pointing it toward the earth. The two imperial techniques, the heavenly march sword and the earthly terrain sword, were activated simultaneously. Sword intent, sword chi, sword stance, and earth chi from the Sword Dao Imperial City converged upon him, while 5 million immortal inscription characters swirled around his body. The heavenly march sword merged with the Emperor Bai's sword soul, ascending higher and higher, radiating divine majesty. The earthly terrain sword coalesced into a colossal sword chi colossus, spiraling and roaring with furious, majestic eyes. Yu Yanjun and the immortal ascension beings from the rice palace landed simultaneously. Even she felt a considerable pressure from the awe-inspiring sight. This is bad. He has already achieved unity with heaven and earth. Moreover, the heavenly March sword seems to have reached the threshold of the 6th layer. It all depends on whether Li Weiyi's psychic martial mystic fusion secret technique can withstand it. 60 years ago, Yu Yanjun had been close to Bu Lianxi, a relationship that seemed both affectionate and detached, mostly admiration from her youthful days. Much like the dynamic between Wu Hongji and Li Weiyi today, it was uncertain how deep their feelings truly ran. Without further fate to bind them, their paths would likely diverge, and their connection would fade. The path of cultivation is long and arduous, and fate plays a crucial role. Most people drift apart as they journey, unknowingly sharing their final farewell. After marrying, Yu Yanjun severed all lingering thoughts of Bu Lianxi, returning to single-minded devotion and loyalty. This very commitment now fueled her fervent hope for Li Weiyi's victory. Yu Wuzhen remarked, the Sword Dao Imperial Court lacks the nether spirit ancient tree, yet Bu Lianxi has elevated his cultivation and Dao techniques to such heights within a mere 60-year cycle. No wonder he's considered a top contender among the 8th generation immortal cultivators, vying for second place and even challenging for first. This outcome came as no surprise to the assembled elite cultivators. A four-colored spiritual light erupted from Li Weiyi's brow as he shot straight toward Bu Lianxi, poised to unleash the psychic martial mystic fusion secret technique. To everyone watching, this seemed to be his only hope of countering Bu Lianxi's heaven-earth unification technique. Suddenly, 4 immortal formation fragments and 4 pages of the earthly tome flew out from the spirit realm between Li Weiyi's eyebrows, encircling Bu Lianxi. Fueled by the 4-colored spirit light, the great wind, fire, thunder, and lightning formation activated, releasing 8,400 formation glyphs. Among them, the fire attribute glyphs on the eastern side of the formation numbered 2,400, coalescing into a crimson gold, 3-legged golden crow. The additional 400 glyphs had been refined under Yu Yaozi's guidance during their journey to the Sword Dao Imperial Court, further enhancing the formation's power. A colossal formation plate materialized above the city domain, enveloping the Emperor Bai's imperial shadow and the Sword Chi Colossus. The purple heaven thunder seal and golden cloud thunder seal hovered above the thunder and lightning glyphs, emitting continuous roars as cascades of lightning light poured down like waterfalls. The younger generation of immortal ascension beings only perceived the great wind, fire, thunder, and lightning formation's overwhelming power, believing it might break Bu Lianxi's ultimate technique. However, the older generation of powerful figures sensed an ominous undercurrent. Boom. Under Li Weiyi's control, the formation plate of the great wind, fire, thunder, and lightning formation suddenly contracted violently. In an instant, the great formation crushed the Emperor Bai's imperial shadow and the Sword Chi Colossus, then surged toward Bu Lianxi, intent on annihilation. How can it be this powerful? It's a formation spirit. This formation has a spirit. How could a high-grade spiritual formation possess a formation spirit? A holy spiritual king psychic master overseeing the city domain's defensive formation immediately sensed the anomaly and unleashed spiritual light to rescue Bu Lianxi. The formation spirit stone floated within Li Weiyi's spirit realm between his eyebrows. With its assistance, every minute aspect of the formation's power was perfectly orchestrated. Li Weiyi's gaze transformed instantly, shedding its earlier calm and gentle demeanor. His eyes now burned with murderous intent, like a predator baring its fangs. He channeled all his power into a single sword strike, a sea-splitting, heaven-rending blow with no return. Bu Lianxi had witnessed high-grade spirit formations before, but he never imagined the great wind, fire, thunder, and lightning formation could be so devastating. The imperial technique shattered. The 7 chains protecting his body snapped under the combined attacks of the purple heaven thunder seal and golden cloud thunder seal. His internal organs convulsed violently, and his body swayed like a paper doll before plummeting toward the ground. You insolent whelp! How dare you! From another direction, an elder of the Sword Dao Imperial Court's royal clan unleashed spiritual chi to rescue Bu Lianxi. Whoosh! Li Weiyi gripped his sword with both hands and unleashed the Tai Yi opens the sea strike. The entire city domain was engulfed in a colossal, surging wave, as if drowned by a divine sea. Everything happened too quickly. Splat! Bu Lianxi remained dazed, still reeling from the formation's overwhelming power. Before he could react, the yellow dragon sword had already struck, cleaving from his right neck to his left waist. From the spirit realm between his eyebrows, 9 divine sword talismans erupted in a frenzied barrage, as if fearing they might fail to kill him. Thud. Li Weiyi landed heavily, the blood sword sinking deep into the stone pavement of 9 Bestowal Street, leaving 2 deep footprints. Above him, Bu Lianxi's body was bisected diagonally, blood splattering across the void as the 9 divine sword talismans danced through the air. The spiritual light unleashed by the holy spiritual king psychic master of the Sword Dao Imperial Court and the spiritual chi unleashed by the royal martial mystic Dao Transcendence arrived a split second too late, each managing to rescue only half of the corpse. The 10-mile stretch of 9 Bestowal Street fell into utter silence. A victor and a loser were inevitable between Li Wei and Bu Lianxi. Yet the gap in their strength wasn't insurmountable, both possessed the means to defend themselves and retreat. Moreover, in the Sword Dao Imperial City, Bu Lianxi was guarded by multiple transcendents. Killing him would require unimaginable precision, meticulous planning, and perfect timing. Who could have imagined Li Wei would strike when Bu Lianxi was at his strongest? Imperial Court Palace. The towering palace gates finally creaked open with a heavy, muffled sound. Tang Shituo, accompanied by the cowardly ghost and the wronged ghost, stepped through the gates and into this sacred place of the Sword Dao, a place he had once desperately sought to enter in his youth, but now trembled in fear, longing only to escape. In his youthful ignorance, he had known neither the vastness of the heavens nor the depth of the earth. Today, all debts of gratitude and vengeance would finally be settled. Blank. End of chapter. Subscribe to the MTL World at Malworld 1 YouTube channel. Novel. The Primordial Law. Volume 7. The Struggle for Immortal Realm. Chapter 160, 835 Master's Grace and Four Grievances. 160th of Volume 7. Translator. Shadow Knight AK. Editor. Shadow Knight AK. Disciple Tang Shituo pays respects to Master. Tang Shituo's thoughts remained composed as he strode heavily into the Grand Hall of the Sword Dao Imperial Court, the pinnacle of power. He stopped at the center of the hall, knelt on one knee, and performed the disciple's ritual. The ancient hall seemed forged entirely from bronze, yet it glowed with an unearthly brightness despite the absence of lamps. Outside, a blizzard raged, darkening the sky. The Sword Emperor sat at the head of the hall, his radiant aura piercing like countless swords, too dazzling to meet directly. 2 sword attendants stood on either side of him. The old ancestor of the Bai clan occupied a chair to the left. No other figures were present. The Sword Emperor's voice echoed through the hall. Tang Shituo, it has been 400 years since we last met, hasn't it? Every 60-year cycle, you send tribute to the Imperial Palace. I still remember your grand celebration 4 centuries ago, when you and all the Imperial disciples came to offer congratulations. I remember it all. I also recall your youthful, untamed spirit, your heroic bearing, your sharp chi, your wild, domineering nature. You were an exceptional talent, the most promising sword cultivator of your generation. In that 60-year cycle, you ranked second, yet your achievements now surpass even the first scholar. Among all past first scholars, only 2 have ever slightly surpassed you. With your deep reserves of potential and unwavering resolve, you are destined to surpass them all. The Sword Emperor did not refer to himself as the Emperor. By using I, he signaled to Tang Shituo that this was a meeting between master and disciple, not a clash between enemies. The Sword Emperor's voice echoed once more, though you call me master, I have taught you little, and I am unworthy of the title. Rise, and be seated. As an imperial disciple, Tang Shituo walks the world under the protection of his master's prestige. This is the first grace. The rewards for being second-ranked, the resources offered by various powers seeking to recruit him, this is the second grace. I will forever remember the Sword Emperor's master's grace. Tang Shituo's massive, muscular frame slowly rose, his presence as imposing as any. He sat to the right, opposite the old ancestor of the Bai clan. Once the martial Dao Heavenly Emperor speaks, every word becomes law, whether thunderous or gentle. To be granted a seat is a grace. To refuse is to defy imperial decree. The left sword attendant snorted coldly. If you truly remember your master's grace, why repay kindness with betrayal? The city is in turmoil, the 100 realms in uproar. What grievances could not be settled privately between master and disciple? Why this calculated plot to seize power by force? How does this differ from betraying your master and destroying your ancestors? Both the left and right sword attendants were imperial disciples from 3,000 years ago, their cultivation profound and unparalleled. Like the Sword Emperor's right and left hands, their authority was immense. Even Sword Dao Imperial Court great powers like the old ancestor of the Bai clan and King Zhao had to show the 2 sword attendants considerable respect. The emperor must be flawless, a sacred embodiment of perfection. Naturally, someone had to play the role of the stern enforcer. Tang Shituo sat as still as a mountain, his expression calm and resolute. His lips parted, and he spoke. My master was in seclusion. How could I speak to him privately without seeing him? I am afflicted by the 3 lifetimes curse and seek the Emperor's sword heart to sever its seal. 7 memorials sent to the Sword Dao Imperial Court have vanished without a trace. My daughter, Wanzhou, was invited to become the new first-rank scholar, solely to gain an audience with the Emperor and plead for help in person. In the past, when bestowing titles upon imperial disciples, my master would personally receive them half the time. Even at his busiest, he would send a clone body to attend. Why is this time different? The right sword attendant roared, insolence. Are you questioning the emperor, suggesting he deliberately avoids you? The emperor's primary duty is to cultivate himself. Only through strength can he protect the billions of citizens of the kingdom, safeguard the entire human race, not prioritize your individual salvation, your personal rescue, your singular audience. Tang Shituo paused, then replied, the right sword attendant speaks with great wisdom. May I ask, where are the 7 memorials? Why has no one responded? Has anyone even informed the emperor? The sword emperor turned his gaze toward the old ancestor of the Bai clan. The old ancestor of the Bai clan declared, I have suppressed all the reports. The emperor is at a critical juncture in his cultivation. How can we distract him with your trivial matters? Today it's Tang Shituo seeking help, tomorrow it will be Li Shituo, and the day after, Zhang Shituo. Tell me, must the emperor forever be mired in this quagmire? The 3 lifetimes curse can wait. Delaying the emperor's cultivation would make us traitors to the human race. The emperor has entrusted me with all affairs of the imperial court's prefectures. Therefore, I have the authority to make decisions. The emperor remains unaware of this matter. Tang Shituo met his gaze. Ancestor, your eloquence is renowned throughout the realm. You can argue a living patriarch Puyin to death, seize the 9 pages of the earthly tome through debate, and even twist righteousness to your own advantage. Such talent leaves Tang Shituo in awe. The mention of this incident ignited the old ancestor's fury, his double pupils flashing with icy light. Tang Shituo, you who betrayed your master and destroyed your ancestors, do you dare judge me? You colluded with Yu Yaozi to orchestrate this scheme, plotting against the emperor. Your true aim is to strip him of his imperial disciple status and drive the Sword Dao imperial court's armies from the East Sea and the Lingxiao realm. Speak plainly. The emperor possesses boundless magnanimity and would never force you to act against your will. Tang Shituo gazed bitterly at the sword emperor, who sat silently above him. When the Grand Palace Master issued the Shoutian Edict, the entire realm was thrown into chaos. The people suffered, blood rained down, and the Snow Sword Tang court rose in rebellion, becoming the foremost power to attack the Lingxiao palace. They were enemies of the imperial court, their slogans calling for the execution of Yu Yaozi. If not for the Sword Dao imperial court's schemes and deceptions, I wouldn't have been cursed with the 3 lifetimes curse, trapped between life and death. If not for my fruitless pleas to my master for years, my heart wouldn't have grown cold and despairing. If not for the Sword Dao imperial court's coercion, seeking to ignite civil war within the Lingxiao realm. If not for my daughter, Wanzhou, being forced into marriage with the royal clan. These 4 grievances alone would have made it impossible for me to accept Yu Yaozi's help. She is my sworn enemy. I would have much preferred to cooperate with the Sword Dao imperial court, attacking the 4 prefectures of the Nether Realm of the Dead, reclaiming the Life Realm's prefectures, and establishing great merit. This would have repaid my master's grace, bringing joy to all. Yet some insisted Tang Shituo wasn't obedient enough, seeking to tame the northern lion into whatever form they desired. Their greed knew no bounds, not even sparing my daughter. Tang Shituo spoke with fiery intensity, his pent-up emotions from years past finally erupting, resentment, bitterness, confusion, and pain. Master, he demanded, did you know about all this? The old ancestor of the Bai clan abruptly rose, unleashing the oppressive aura of a heavenly emperor. His spiritual chi surged forward, bearing down on Tang Shituo. Tang Shituo, cease this insolence. The matter of Tang Wanzhou is known throughout the realm. Yu Yaozi schemed against me. Had I not acted, the Sword Dao imperial court would have become a laughingstock, a mere stepping stone for the Lingxiao palace. An ancestor who has lived for 8,000 years, so easily manipulated. Amidst the heavenly emperor's oppressive aura and swirling spiritual chi, Tang Shituo slowly rose to his feet, revealing the depth of his cultivation. His physique radiated imposing strength, his gaze sharp and unwavering. Tell me, he said in a deep voice, if someone were to claim that the ancestor had defected to the Taiyan sect, would the emperor not immediately send you to the executioner's block? The old ancestor narrowed his eyes, sensing Tang Shituo's extraordinary cultivation and combat prowess. To challenge the Lingxiao palace required genuine strength. Tang Shituo cut straight to the point. The ancestor merely used the Grand Palace Master's scheme as a pretext to turn the tables. You then secretly collaborated with the Demon Monarch and the Heavenly Demon Empress to reap immense benefits. What a brilliant move, killing 3 birds with 1 stone. The 3rd bird, undoubtedly, was to sow discord between Tang Shituo and the Lingxiao palace. After all, the Mist Celestial's return was a massive wild card. Every 60-year cycle, I send tribute to the palace to repay the debt of cultivation resources I received in my youth. 6 years ago, I promised my master to conquer the 4 prefectures of the Nether Realm and help the Sword Dao Imperial Court seize the benefits of the East Sea Immortal Dao Dragon Vein. This was to repay a debt of gratitude. By manipulating the 3 lifetimes curse, I repaid my master with a life. My daughter was forced into marriage, repaying the royal clan with another life. Tang Shituo threw the cowardly ghost and wronged ghost into the hall. If the emperor is unaware of the truth, let them tell you now. No need. The Sword Emperor's voice was firm, carrying an unyielding will. Since you now call me Emperor instead of Master, let's set aside right and wrong for now and get straight to the terms. The Sword Dao Imperial Court will certainly claim its share of the East Sea Immortal Dao Dragon Vein. With those words, the Sword Emperor vanished from his throne to meet Empress Cao of the Demon Kingdom. The left sword attendant stepped forward, casting a cold glance at Tang Shituo before turning his gaze toward the hall's entrance. Bu Lianqi is dead, the royal clan's honor is utterly lost, and the emperor has been humiliated. Tang Shituo, you may think you've repaid your debts, but you've only sown deep resentment. The right sword attendant added, the Grand Palace Master is holding a large number of Transcendence and Immortal Realm martial mystic cultivators hostage at the Huo City barracks. We are indeed powerless to stop you from wreaking havoc in the Imperial City. However, the Immortal Ascension competition operates within established rules. What weight do your bargaining chips, Li Wei, Tang Wanzhou, the Jade Tome of the Life-Preserving Spring, and the Evil Camel Bell, truly carry with you and the Grand Palace Master? Tang Shituo remained unmoved by these words. He settled back into his seat and turned to the old ancestor of the Bai clan across from him. Ancestor, it's time to return the rare insect. We've shown you considerable respect thus far. Please don't squander it. How is this possible? Yu Yanjun froze, staring at the blood-soaked streets, struggling to maintain her composure amidst the shocking upheaval. She was both awestruck by the terrifying power of the great wind, fire, thunder, and lightning formation and deeply saddened by Bu Lianqi's defeat. From a purely pragmatic standpoint, she had hoped for Li Wei's victory. Yet her friendship with Bu Lianqi made this outcome, which she had never anticipated, all the more painful. With this formation, Li Wei has already secured his place in the Dao Harmony realm, Kuyu remarked from the instrument river boat. In a fair and just duel, only Yu Li, the 8th generation immortal cultivator of the Demon Kingdom, could defeat him. Kuyu knew that the Demon Kingdom's imperial clan possessed a nether spirit ancient tree. Over the past 60 years, Yu Li had benefited greatly from its aid, her cultivation advancing at an astonishing pace, far surpassing the effects of time formations. In terms of cultivation depth and Dao technique mastery, only Rice Palace's Transcendence, who had reached the Nirvana realm, surpassed her. Ku Yao asked, what if the duel isn't fair and just? Kuyu chuckled, pointing at the 8th generation immortal cultivators of the Demon Kingdom rapidly advancing toward 9 Bestowments Avenue. If Li Wei can withstand them for even an hour under this onslaught, I'll prostrate myself in utter admiration. A complex expression flickered across Ku Yao's face. Kuyu reassured her, don't worry. Today's Immortal Ascension competition isn't entirely straightforward. When Li Wei can no longer hold out, the Grand Palace Master and the Lion Taming King will naturally compromise with the Sword Emperor and find a way to protect him. His influence is considerable. Besides, if he can't win, he can always concede and withdraw. True enough. Even if he concedes now, it would be a glorious defeat, his reputation surpassing all the Immortal Ascension beings, Ku Yao agreed. End of chapter. Subscribe to the MTL World at Malworld 1 YouTube channel.